Hi everyone, this is Kristen with the Kennedy Room of Local History and Genealogy, bringing you another episode of Genealogy on the Go, where we cover genealogy tips and tricks in 15 minutes or less. In this episode, we are going to take a look at birth certificates and discuss how to figure out when the area you're researching started keeping birth certificates, where you can locate these documents, and what kind of helpful information you might be able to find out from them. So what's the easiest way to figure out when the state that you're researching started keeping birth certificates? I would recommend using the Family Search Research Wiki, which is something that we talked about in several of the past videos. Now you can do this by going to Google and just typing in the name of the state, Vital Records, Research Wiki, and that should bring it up. Now for this video we're going to be focusing mostly on South Carolina records, but this would work for any state. So let me type that in, South Carolina Vital Records Research Wiki. And it's one of the first things that pops up in my list. It'll probably be at the top of your list also. We'll click this link. And this brings us to the South Carolina Vital Records page at Family Search. Now this is going to include information on births, adoptions, marriages, divorces, and deaths. Anything considered a vital record. If we scroll down, we can see there's a chart here that tells us when the statewide registration of births began in South Carolina. And we can see that was in 1915. Now, if we look below, we can find out when the state was in general compliance. When was this law mostly being followed? And we see that was by around 1918. Now, if we go up here and we click on births, we can find additional information. So like we mentioned, South Carolina did not issue birth and death certificates prior to January the 1st, 1915. If we scroll down, we can find out information about past attempts to register births. We can get ideas of where we might be able to look if a birth certificate does not exist. For example, perhaps in church records. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we can see information on delayed birth certificates. And here we can find out where we can access birth certificates at. So birth certificates are kept at the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control in the Office of Vital Records and Public Health Statistics. And it should be noted that birth certificates are kept private for 100 years. So currently the only birth certificates that are public records would be birth certificates from 1915 to 1920. Now you can access these public birth records, birth certificates, at the South Carolina Department of History and Archives website, and their address is scdah.sc.gov. From here, we'll go to Research and Genealogy, and then we're going to choose SCERA, which stands for South Carolina Electronic Records Archive. And we'll scroll down and we'll choose birth certificates 1915 to 1920. So there are two ways you can search these records. The first, you can just go up to the top and type a name in. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to look for someone named Annie Marshall. I could type quotation Annie Marshall and then close quotation. Now I put the quotations because I want to get an exact search. I don't want to bring up every record with the name Annie. I don't want to bring up every record with the name Marshall. So I want to bring up a record that has the name Annie Marshall together. And so that's why I'm using the quotations, and I'll hit search. So this brings up a list of birth certificates. You can scroll through them. Let's go back up to the top and click on the first one. You'll just click on the image and it should bring it right up. And we'll scroll down. So here we have a birth certificate. Let's see. This one does not look like it has a name of the child, but it does, it does have the name Annie Marshall on it. Annie Marshall is listed as the mother. Let's go back and look at another one. Okay, let's scroll down. Let's try, that's an amendment. We don't want that one. Let's try this next birth certificate from 1919. We'll click on the image and we'll scroll down. And here we can see that we have a birth certificate for Annie Inez Marshall, who was born on January the 8th, 1919. And we can see that she was born in Abbeville County in the township of Long Cane. And we can also find out information about her family. Here we have her father. His name was Joe Marshall. We know that he was a resident of Abbeville County and that he was born in Greenwood County, South Carolina, and that his occupation was farming. And if we look beside that, we can find out her mother's name, which was Sadie Cooper. She too was a resident of Abbeville County. She was 23 years old when her daughter was born, and she was listed as a housewife. Now, we can go back, and there is one more way that you can search this collection that I want to show you. We'll go back to the main page. Now, if you scroll down, it says, "Are you unsure who you are looking for?" Well, if you are, you can use the indexes. There's an index for each year. All you have to do is click on one. So let's just look at the index for 1919. We'll click follow this link. And then we're going to choose download. This is going to download an Excel file. And it does take just a few seconds to get it open. Okay, so here we have an index of every birth certificate on record for South Carolina in 1919. Now, unfortunately, these are not listed in alphabetical order. They are actually in order by the day the person was born. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to search. But we know that Annie Marshall, she was born very early in January 1919. So if we look down the list just a bit, we can find her. She's right here. We have Annie Inez Marshall. And she was born in Abbeville on January the 8th, 1919. And we have her mother's name, Sadie Cooper. And if we scroll back, we can get the file number. So I'm going to copy this file number real quick. And we'll go back to the page we were at. And we want to find her birth certificate. So we'll paste her birth certificate number into this box. Now make sure that you change this from within record to archive. We want to search the entire archive for this number. So we'll hit search. And here we have it. The birth certificate for Annie Inez Marshall. And then we can click on it. And this was the image that we were just looking at. Now, like I said, this index can be a little clunky to search, so I just wanted to show you real quickly a good way to search it. If you know the name that you're looking for, you know the last name, the surname, I would go to the child's last name column, which in this instance is column D. We'll click that, and then we'll do a Control F. And so let's say that we wanted to find every person that was born in 1919 with the last name Jones. So we go to this find and replace box that we brought up. We'll type Jones. And then we're just going to hit find next. And it's going to take us to every instance of the Jones surname. So you can see here's one, Joseph Jones Robinson. We can click through a little bit farther. Here's one. We have Janie Jones. We can go another step. This brings up another one. Harriet Marie Jones. And you can go through these until you've seen all the Jones, and maybe you'll be able to pinpoint the person you're looking for. Like I mentioned earlier, birth certificates are made public after 100 years. So currently the only thing we have public access to is birth certificates from 1915 to 1920. Anything after 1920 would have to be accessed through the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. And I will make sure to leave a link to this page in the description box below. So this page is pretty helpful. It walks you through step by step how to request a copy of a birth certificate. It tells you how to request it online, how to do it in person, over the phone, and even by mail. But one thing to keep in mind when you're planning to request a birth certificate is who can request a certified copy of a birth certificate. So typically this is the person who is named on the certificate, the parents, the legal guardians, or their legal representative. Now, immediate family members can obtain certified copies of birth certificates if the registrant is deceased. So if you're trying to obtain a death certificate, a birth certificate of a long lost cousin, you may have trouble accessing that because you wouldn't be considered their immediate kin. Just something to keep in mind. Sometimes you're just going to have a family member or an ancestor who simply does not have a birth certificate. Perhaps they were born a little too early. Perhaps they lived in a very rural location and couldn't get to town to register a birth. A lot of births at the time were home births and not hospital births, and that can impact whether or not someone had their birth registered. And, a lot of times families had other things that had priority over going to town to register births. A lot of times they may have been more concerned with managing the farm, taking care of large families, and registering their child's birth may not have been the top priority. When that happens, sometimes you might get lucky and find a delayed birth certificate for that person. Later on, years down the road, that person may need a delayed birth certificate to file for Social Security. They might need it to file for a passport. So it's something to definitely check into. Now, delayed birth certificates for South Carolina can be found on Ancestry.com and on Family Search. I'm going to show you how to find them on Family Search simply because that's the site that everybody should have access to because it's free. So you'll go to FamilySearch.org, you'll click Search, and then you'll choose Catalog. And we'll make sure the Place tab is highlighted. We'll type in South Carolina. And we're going to choose Online, and then we'll hit Search. Now, this brings up all the collections they have relating to South Carolina. We're specifically looking for something on vital records, so we're going to scroll down. And we can see this Vital Records tab has 19 collections. We'll click that. And we'll scroll down just a bit. And you can see right here is delayed birth certificates for South Carolina. And from here, we'll choose South Carolina delayed birth certificates are available online. Click here. So just for the sake of an example, just so you can see what one of these might look like, and of course the forms vary based on time period and location, let's just search for someone with the last name Burl. And we'll scroll down just a bit. And let's just choose one of these. We'll choose James Huberl. And we'll click View Record. We'll zoom in. Okay, so this is a delayed birth certificate for James Huberl. We know that he was born, or he said that he was born on December 25th, 1898 in Aiken, South Carolina. It also lists his current address, which is New York City. And we have his mother and father's name. We know where they were born. We know that they're now deceased. But one thing that's on here that's interesting is that they were required to provide proof of a birth. And so this gentleman has provided two pieces of proof. He has provided the name of his doctor or midwife, attendant physician, and then he's also provided information from a family Bible. And it says that the person who was inspecting this application, that he saw the family Bible, he inspected the entry of the above birth in the family Bible, and he saw that the entry is original, and that the Bible was printed prior to the date of the above stated birth. And we can see that this birth certificate, or this delayed birth certificate, was applied for in 1942. And so this is a pretty interesting document. We get some information on where the gentleman is at now. We know that his parents were from a certain area. We know that by 1942 they had passed away. And we have some other documents that maybe we can look for. We know that in 1942, there was a family Bible. And so maybe we can keep that in the back of our mind and keep our eye out for that as we're researching this family. So this is all I have for you on birth certificates. If you have questions about accessing birth certificates or about using any other local history and genealogy resources in the community room, feel free to visit our website or to contact us. We are happy to help. Until next time, happy researching.